So I want to talk about how to better develop your rhythm and your pulse. And I think this is something that many people don't study. And then we end up feeling really inadequate. And it shows up in that you find yourself off time when you're sight reading new music,
Yes, go ahead.
especially if you're in a band or something like that. You might notice that other people just seem to, read the new music really well. And for you, it's just like, I don't even know where I am. And oh, what are those trumpets doing? So I think that the good news is developing a good sense of rhythm is actually one of the easier things we have to do in our journey as clarinetists. There are so many things we learn, how to hold our mouth, how to blow air, but rhythm is something that we can study and learn. And there's two huge components, I think, to learning rhythm. And I'll mention both of them, and I'm going to focus on one of them today, and I'll give you some information on how you might explore the other side of it. So first of all, being able to read rhythms easily on the page is really like learning how to read words the first time we started to do that. There's symbols on the page, and our brain has to figure out what do those symbols mean. And it's by far simplest if we have a language to learn them, a way of doing that. And to do that, you start with very simple rhythm patterns. And what you've probably noticed is there are certain rhythms you can do effortlessly. Probably some of the very first rhythms you learned were like whole notes. It's 4 beats. I know I'm speaking in North American there, but now we don't think about those. And so one of our goals is to develop lots of rhythm patterns. Now, I'm not going to focus on that so much today because I think there's an underserved aspect of music that is called what I call pulse. And pulse is our ability to feel a steady beat while we're playing. And that is something we can train our body to learn so much better, and yet very few people teach us how do we learn pulse. So here's what I'm going to do. If you guys can open up the chat, I'll put a worksheet in, but I'm going to put it on screen in anyway. So no fear if you don't have it in the chat, but if you want to download it onto your own machine, I just put it in there. It says Rhythm Session ICA Enthusiast 2022. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this worksheet on screen right now and talk about some strategies for developing pulse. And here's what I'm going to say about this. This is fun. And in fact, there's some people here who might attest to this. I run an online community for enthusiasts, called the Clarinet Transformation Community, and we have all kinds of workshops and regular meetings. And in February, we decided to call it Rhythm Month, and we did a bunch of trainings. And there were people in there who I've known for a few years who've never played with steady pulse, who at the end of that month played amazingly well with rhythm and made huge breakthroughs. And these exercises seem simple and they seem silly, but they actually really work. So let me take you through some of them, and then I'm happy to take questions after we go through this a little bit. So pulse training is what we want is for part of our brain to be just really comfortable with keeping a steady pulse while the rest of our brain is thinking about fingers and articulation and what is that note and all that other stuff. And many of the things we learn on clarinet kind of go into that autopilot part of our brain. So a really simple way of doing that, let me just get my metronome out here. If you don't have a metronome, most of us know what it is, but a metronome basically is a device that will give us, through a click track or a counting track like Debbie was just using, some kind of pulse. So I'm going to do one that maybe will count out loud. And the first thing to do, what I put here is a very easy piece of music for Jacques. Most people know this tune. That what we want to do to help our brain learn it, and this is where brain studies have shown it's a great way to learn, is that we're going to tap the pulse all over our body. And I actually want you guys to try doing this exercise with me. If you know the tune, sing it. But what's more important, or you could, if we really want to give it a bonus, we'll count beat numbers. So we're going to count to 4. So what I'm going to do, to demonstrate for the first bar, I'm going to get my metronome going, and it won't be too fast. Let me pick a medium speed here.
1, 2.
Okay, so there's our talking lady.
1,
this is what the first bar would look like. Notice I'm starting by tapping this pulse in time with the metronome. Hopefully you can see me while I'm screen sharing here. And here's what I'm going to speak. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I have no idea if I'm singing in the right key, but you can sing in any key you want. So let's sing this song together once through, but get yourself tapping all over your body, and then I'll explain why this works. So here's 4 beats in. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so very, very basic, but when we are touching our body all over the place, a really fascinating thing happens inside of our brain. I touch my shoulder, and of course my fingers are feeling it on every beat, which is a steady pulse. Whatever part of my brain my fingertips are controlled by, that's flashing the whole time. It's like, oh, here's a beat in time. But now the part of my brain that has shoulder is aware of it. Oh, the other shoulder's aware of it. Oh, my side's aware of it. It's firing off the pulse in many, many parts of our brain. And this hugely accelerates our brain's awareness of pulse and time. You know, anyone who's ever taken ballroom dancing lessons, if you're doing a waltz, that kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you take a big step on beat 1. That's a great way to develop rhythm, is dancing. But the more we have physical touch and connection to the rhythm, the more quickly our brain starts to do this. And so the first part of pulse training is actually just to do it without your clarinet, like we just did. Then you want to try and feel the pulse physically while you play. And these are training exercises. They end up being a little bit goofy, but they work. So I could take my easy Frere Jacques here, and while I'm playing that music, I want to find ways to feel the pulse within my body. So, you know, a simple way to do that might be that I sort of move back and forth in time. So the first measure could be. Now that's all right, but the more variety we have, again, different parts of our body moving, different parts of our brain, the more effective this is. So you can get really silly with this exercise. I'm going to back up a little bit. I'll talk louder. So I could be marching. While I'm marching, every now and then I can throw in elbow movements. So I'll play just the first 4 bars, demonstrating what looks goofy and silly. But believe it or not, the more physical I get with this, the more effective it is for my brain. So I'll get my metronome going and show you this.
3, 4, 1.
I might start by just
3,
pulsing.
4,
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
So I know I look ridiculous there. It's kind of goofy, kind of fun. It actually powerfully makes my brain more aware of the pulse. So that's what I have as exercise too. And I encourage you to experiment with this. Now, there's a few different metronome apps do this. I have one here that I really like called Time Guru, and it's on the worksheet here, that has a gradual random mute feature. What random mute means is that it starts by giving you the 4 beats, but then it starts to leave them out. And till eventually it's leaving out several beats in a row. And our exercise is to try and see if we can keep that pulse going so that we stay with it when it comes back on. And let's try this together. It's kind of fun. So I want to get you guys in on the action here. What I'm going to do is we're just going to clap the pulse, but clap all over your body. And the metronome is going to gradually start muting quite a bit. So let me turn it on and we'll try it together. Now, because of camera delay and zoom and everything, I might appear to be out of sync with you. So you really have to go by what you hear and moving it at your end. You know, someone watching all of us, we're not going to be in sync with each other. But you're going to find it so interesting when it starts dropping out beats to see if you can stay with it. So I'll turn it on. Oops. Hold on. For some reason, my metronome's not speaking. I hope I can make this work. Might be because I had the other one on. So let me turn the other one off. Try this again. Oh no, don't do this to me. Okay, give me one moment. I should have tested this beforehand, even though I was just using it the other day. See if I can get it to speak here. How bizarre. Okay, I'll try one more time. If it doesn't work, then we will try plan B. So while I'm doing this, if you're joining us late, this idea of playing different things, I'm going to jump to my next exercise and then I'm going to fiddle with that in a minute. I really hope I can get Time Guru going because it's quite powerful. But I'm going to, with the different steps that I have here, I'm going to jump to where it says exercise 5 on the sheet. And it says choose, I put a slow piece of music. It doesn't even have to be slow. I would say choose a relatively simple piece of music initially, but then you can do this with anything that you're looking for. And I have this concept, comes from, math and fractions when we had the lowest common denominator, if you remember that, adding your fractions. So I've nicknamed it the lowest common rhythm denominator. In other words, here's a sample, a pretty little etude by Denominator, where the smallest note in here are the eighth notes. Pardon me for speaking in North American, those of you who come from other parts of the world, but you know what I mean. And what we want to do is actually divide the music into that pulse the entire time. So if we look at our first two measures, what we have here is a 2-beat note, 4 half-beat notes, a 2-beat note, a 1-beat note. For this exercise, if we look at what I've written above it, this is how I've demonstrated the exercise. We're going to put everything into half beats. And we're going to literally play it that way. And what this does, our tongue is hitting the reed. It's a physical way of representing that inner beat. And I'll tell you what I often see in people, so common. I'm going to demonstrate the subdivision in just a minute, but this will remind me of another exercise that I highly recommend you do. I recommend you record a piece that you're working on, play the recording back, and try tapping along like a metronome with your recording. What you'll notice is there may be spots where you were speeding up or slowing down that you weren't aware of and that you can't clap along with yourself. And the goal is to get it to where you can. So can we try a little experiment here? I'm going to play the first 6 bars or so, pretending like I've never done pulse training. So I might not actually be super steady. But what I'm going to play is representative of so many people that I work with and probably representative of myself before I actually did pulse training. So you're going to try and clap along with me. I'm going to play. I'm going to make some of the common rhythm mistakes and you'll see where you can clap with me easily and where you can't. So here's me with not great pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously there's places where you're like, what's she doing? Doesn't make sense. And we all do this. Now, sometimes we'll just pause because our brain is going, oh my gosh, what's that note? Our fingers are throwing us off. But what I'm referring to is if there's a piece where you have played it, you kind of know how it goes, then you record it along with that. So here's our lowest common rhythm denominator exercise. Just looking at the first 4 bars. I've written it out above it. But what's great to do is get your brain used to just seeing it on the page and going, okay, I could divide that 2-beat note into 4 beats. I'm going to play it now with that subdivision. If you have your clarinets out, you're welcome to play along with me. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now my guess, I saw some of you clapping along with me, which is great. That was probably a lot steadier than my previous example. And it's because it's pretty easy for us to think of a steady pulse. Where we commonly make mistakes is where we have a rest and we're not feeling the pulse during our rest, or when we have a long note and we're kind of thinking about what's coming next instead of keeping that pulse going. So this subdivision helps us. And I would recommend, if you're new to this, you don't just do it once. I would take those first 2 bars, I would play it subdivided 3 times at least, 3 to 5 times. Only takes 8 seconds, right? I could do that whole thing in a minute. So after I've played it subdivided, then I play it as written, trying to feel that. So let's try this. You guys clap along with me all over your body. Why don't you tap the 8th note pulse? I'm going to play the first 2 bars, take the rest in the lowest common rhythm denominator version, and then I'm going to play it as written. Hopefully, I will be steady. So you can start counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I don't know if I was perfect the second time, but in my head, I was still feeling that subdivision that I created earlier. I'm sure it was way better than my sample version where I hadn't studied pulse. And it's this exercise that I think made a radical improvement to the participants in the workshop that we did in February. Just taking your music and literally playing it like this. Now, bonus points if you can incorporate the goofy stuff I talked about earlier, which would be something like this. And remember, these are training exercises, not how I'm going to perform this music, but the goal is get my brain, used to hearing pulse within the music. I can do that with more challenging stuff too. I know we have people here of, lots of different playing levels. Weber Concertina is a famous work for clarinet. When I look at this one, although there's the odd 32nd note, mostly we have 16th notes or 4 notes to a beat. I could do the same thing here. I'll just demonstrate it without going into great detail because it's the same principle. So many people misplay this piece. But again, if I turn everything into the notes we have on beat 3 here, and I would do it again 3 to 4 times, then play it as written. Here's how I would approach playing it. Just doing that and doing it 3 to 4 times, then playing it as written really helps our brain and body to get into pulse. So when we did this as a group, my suggestion to people is I gave them homework and I said, you don't have to do your entire piece this way, because the beauty of it, going back to our first piece, if I do that for the first 4 bars or 8 bars, do it really thoroughly, it's almost like my brain starts to get it. It gets in the mood of it and it carries through to the whole piece. What I had people do was record themselves playing both versions. They played their lowest common rhythm denominator one, and then they played it as written. And just that act of recording it, committing to doing it, made a huge difference. So those of you that are here, that would be my homework for you. You can take the samples on the page, but maybe even more so, take the music that you are working on. If you have rests, and we're doing it with the lowest rhythm denominator, you can also add something in the rest. So you could just make noise or internally think it. I could go da da dee da 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 ta ta da. I could like whisper 2 things, because a lot of times we don't feel the pulse in the rest. So this also applies to rests as much as it does to other stuff. Okay, I'm going to just see if I can get Time Guru to work one more time. Ironic that it's not doing what I want it to here. I must have changed some setting that turned off the sound, and I don't know what I did. So, are there any Time Guru experts on this, on our Zoom here? I'm going to stop my share. Okay. I'm going to just take one quick look at settings. There's probably something that I've done here. Oh, okay. Let me see. Maybe I got it going. I don't. Okay, so I'm going to just explain Time Guru then. This is how Time Guru works. It, I can show it to you visually just so you get a chance to kind of see what it looks like. So it's tapping away on the screen there, and what it will do is this. You can have the talking voice, and it'll do something like, here's what we'll do. Yeah, it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we do is we listening to it. In fact, we're going to fabricate our own Time Guru here, because I'm going to put my other metronome on mute, and I will be the Time Guru lady. So this is how we can do this. Then she just stops. She starts randomly leaving beats out. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to be the Time Guru lady. I'm going to be counting, and you're going to be tapping all over your body with the pulse, and then I'm going to start like leaving beats out. And I'll randomly start leaving more and more out, and you see how you keep in time. So we're going to have a reasonably fast pulse here. Okay, so the reason I'm not, maybe I can prop my metronome up. I was going to say the reason I'm not looking at you is because I'm watching the lights so that myself stays steady. Here we go. So join in with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 4. 1, 2. 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4. 2, 4. 4. Okay, so you get the idea. That's me being Time Guru, and I think the longest I let you stay out there was maybe 5 beats, but you can do it where 12 beats go by and then it comes back in. And if you do use Time Guru, it usually works. I'm not sure what I messed up there, but do it where it speaks the beat numbers out loud, because that way sometimes if it comes in and you're off, you don't know if you're on beat 3 or 4, and it helps you realize if you rushed or if you slowed down. So these exercises, oh, also on that worksheet that I did put in the chat, there's a link to some more free training that I have online just through my Clarinet Mastery website, which has some more of the videos to explain the clapping, counting, the rhythm language, the other part of it. So those are just available for you if you're interested, and it's on that worksheet. And when the replays get sent out, I think Jessica's sending it out to everyone. Oh, she says we have 4 minutes left. Great, I thought we were about to get the axe. So let me share that website then. I'll share my screen once again. So what I've got here at the very, very bottom, I've put some homework for you. It also says more free training here at clarinetmaster.com, easy rhythm training method. So, and I'll just be transparent. I made those videos up a couple years ago when I was selling my own rhythm course. I have like a whole long detailed course. So you would get information on that, but there's no charge for the free videos. It just has some really helpful videos on learning, 6/8 time and weird times like 5/8 and 7/8, and talks also about this pulse training. So the reason I focused on the pulse part of it today is because nobody ever trained me in this, and it took me a long time to figure out the best ways of teaching pulse. And it came out of I've had different students with learning disorders who had trouble learning rhythm, and as soon as we tacked onto this more tactile tapping all over your body, it worked magic. And people who have learning challenges, probably way more severe than most of you, were able to develop an excellent sense of pulse. So just going to go through the exercises that I had here. For exercise 3, I said use the Time Guru app, set it until you're barely there. The next fun thing to do is to take an exercise, and I've written one here with lots of rests, and then try doing that exercise with Time Guru. So you know what? We have time to do this if I be the Time Guru lady. So now we're kind of sight reading. I know this is tricky, but we have 2 minutes left. So let's take a look at this exercise I have on the page. Hopefully you can all see it. And I will just manually be Time Guru. I'm going to stay pretty steady for the first 4 bars, and then I'm going to start dropping out. So your goal is simply counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But let's say that when there's a printed note on the page, actually, there's a couple ways we can do this. There's 2 different options. So one is that you clap the notes that are written. When there's a rest, you do an anti-clap. And I think we should try this. So this is what the first measure would look like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So notice the rest, I'm giving it a really physical motion. This is training me to do it. So our voice counts to 4 over and over. We're just tapping the rhythm. Me, though, I'll sort of demonstrate it, but I'm also going to be Time Guru lady. So my voice is going to start dropping out. You keep talking the whole time. All right, so here we go. I'll get my Time Guru lady going here. I have to try and watch her and our rhythm at the same time. So mostly I'm just going to be a talking metronome. I'll give us 4 beats for nothing. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to start muting a bit. 3, 4. 1, 4. 1, 2, 4. 2, 4. 2. 1, 4. 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 4. 2. Okay, and we have like 25 seconds left, so I'm going to pause it there. Hopefully that was enlightening and fun for you. It just gives you a sense of what you can do. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I'm sorry I didn't leave much time for questions, but you can always email me, Michelle@clarinetmentors.com, if you have other questions. Thanks, everyone. We're going to magically go back to the other session, so enjoy the rest of your day.